all thinking of Susan, who's climbing a mountain in Ecuador. Or maybe she's convinced Rick to stop climbing. Anyway, we miss her. We have some guests this morning. Stacy is a friend of Chris's, and Chris will introduce her more during Fines. We have Elena. And I think our speaker's around here somewhere.
She's in the bathroom.
So Ellie will introduce our speaker soon. I think that's all the guests. This morning, Charlie is going to offer us a Rotary Minute. Charlie?
Yes, I'm sure that you all have favorite charities. I don't know about you, but in this season, when all the charities in the country are looking for money, my mailbox is full every morning with a stack of people asking for money, and Ruth and I are not really very wealthy people. But I found one that I really like to support because it supports so many of the things that I'm interested in, and that's the Rotary Foundation. And it's an interesting thing about the Rotary Foundation. It's kind of self-supporting. People give money to it, and the foundation invests that money for 3 years and uses the investment income to support the organization, and then sends it out. Half of it goes out into the world in grants, major grants for peace studies and teacher training and healthcare and vocational training, water filters, the kinds of things that peace is my particular interest, and supporting peace institutes around the world is one of the things that they do. We started out, I started in Rotary, actually looked up my membership date was January 1st, 1997. So I've been a member for 26, almost 27 years now. And someone said, you know, we need to support this. And they talked about every Rotarian every year. And so Ruth and I started giving a small amount every year, and it became easy to give $100. And you think about it, if every Rotarian in the world gave $100 every year, that'd be $120 million to start with. Well, once I got started doing that, it's easy to kind of increase that, and you start getting pins and you start getting things, and all of a sudden one day I got to notice that over that 26 or 27 years of Rotary membership, we've given $10,000. And we have one other member in the club that has done the same thing. And when you get to $10,000, instead of getting a little round pin, you get a square pin. and they send you a little souvenir. And so I went online this morning and I looked, and there are award levels. Part of the reason that I was interested was that I was thinking that I was doing a good job at $500 a year or so. I read in the Rotarian magazine about 2 Nigerians who each gave $200,000. And I thought, my gosh, I'm never going to reach that level. That would be my life savings several times over to give that. And so this morning I went in and looked, and they have award levels of all kinds going up beyond $10 million. So if any of you can give $10 million in a year, well, you'll get some kind of an award. And
Is it a diamond shape?
And a pen.
What's that?
Is it a diamond shape?
Could be the diamond. I would encourage everyone in the club, if there's any way that you can, to give something. The idea of every Rotarian every year giving $100 just really makes a lot of sense to me. The idea of giving regularly from whatever level you can to support this great organization is just a wonderful thing to do if you get the opportunity.
Thank you, Charlie.
Sally,
Yeah.
I would say that for the new Rotarians, if 10 of them get together and $100 is given by each of them, then one person can be designated
As a
by
Paul Harris, right? Once you or a group have given $1,000, $1,000 is the mark at which a Paul Harris is awarded. And you don't have to accept your Paul Harris for yourself. You can actually pick somebody out of the community who might not even be a Rotarian and present them with a Paul Harris, presumably for the community charitable work that they've done. So just be aware.
I've got a 12-page list of all the awards here.
Okay, Charlie. So Marty is going to give us an inspiration. Thanks, Marty.
Fire, but in fact, we both were on time today. So, I'm a bit of a worrywart. And as my age has been inexorably advancing, I'm trying to break myself of this lifelong habit. I don't know if I've done much of a good job, but I have come across many sayings, if you will, about the problems of being a worrywart. So I picked some of my favorites that just go over with you. These are right. Instead of my top 10 list, it's my top 9 list. So number 9, worry does not empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It empties today of its strength. And that's from Corrie ten Boom. Number 8, worry's like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but never gets you anywhere. If you want to test your memory, try to recall what you were worrying about 1 year ago today. It's from a fellow named E. Joseph Crossman. Number 6, worrying is using your imagination to create something you don't want. It's from someone named Abraham Hicks. Worry never robs tomorrow of its sorrow. It only saps today of its joy, from Leo Buscaglia. Number 4, today is the tomorrow we worried about yesterday. Unknown source. Number 3, a day of worry is more exhausting than a week of work. Graham Lubbock. And my last two, my 2 favorites by far. And number 2, worry is interest paid on trouble before it comes due. From William Ralph Inge. And this is my best. Number 1, don't worry about the world ending today. It's already tomorrow in Australia by Charles Schulz.
And Marty, have you read Corrie ten Boom's book?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's good. I have a copy if you want it. A couple of business things. First of all, Sunday is the community tree lighting event, for which we are making the hot chocolate. If anybody would like to help Leslie, speak with Leslie after the meeting. By the way, you're probably gonna need to get some cups. Armand, you had a brief announcement.
Can everybody hear me from here, or I can walk around?
Yes.
You can walk.
The Toys for Kids campaign is off to kind of a slow start. And I've talked to a few people, mainly Walmart headquarters and Walmart local, the Marine Corps League. And how many people would be interested in manning a pop-up at Walmart on the 18th of December from 10 to 2? I'd like to get at least 6 people to volunteer. We had such a great turnout when we did the back to school drive this fall that I think it would help the Toys for Tots campaign. So can I have a show of hands of people that would be willing on Saturday, the 18th, 2-hour shifts, 10 to 12 and 12 to 2 at Walmart.
Are you sure the 18th is a Saturday?
No, it's a Monday. It's a
Oh, what's the Saturday before?
The 16th.
The Saturday just before is the 23rd. The week before that's the 16th.
16th, okay, the 16th. A
And
show of
probably-
hands if there's an interest in doing this.
And could you divide it into?
Oh, do you take names? Please. Walter, who else do I have? Howard, Jennifer, and Leslie. That's 4. 2 more?
I'll let you know.
Can't squeak out 2 more people.
I would, but I know.
It'll be-
Michelle.
We got Dave, I think.
Oh,
Thank
Dave,
Dave.
Dave's waving away up there. Okay, sorry, Dave. Thank you. And 1 more. Well, we'll keep twisting irons. Maybe
Dave
next
Erickson.
week I can get.
Yeah,
Dave Erickson.
Probably gotta look at the calendar,
And you could probably split it up into 1 or 2 hour shifts, right?
All right, thank you very much.
This is,
great idea.
this is a reminder that the, senior luncheon is 2 weeks from yesterday, December 13th. We have posters. If anybody needs any posters to put up, I have some. I'm gonna take care of the one here. I haven't put it up yet. And I will post on Front Porch Forum. We had a bit of a wrinkle because the phone wasn't working. And since we told everybody RSP, that was a very important thing. But now that it's fixed, I will be posting on Front Porch Forum. But if any of you have a public place that you visit, please take a poster. I dropped one off at Taft Farms, but I have not gone to Falcon Manor, Eagle Crest, or whatever they're called.
Don't do those, they're on my route.
Oh, okay, all right, so Leslie will take her.
Greg's got a question, I think.
Who does?
Greg?
Hey, Greg?
Yes, hi, everybody. Good morning. Sorry, I can't be there in person. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
So, things are not looking good for the music for the luncheon. Part of the problem is we have our band concert on that very day. And, it's going to be difficult for a music group to get over here. I'm sending a note to Cameron Brownell at CVU to see if he might have some high school kids who can make the trip over. But right now, it does not look like we're going to be able to get a group from WCS to sing. Sorry about that.
That's okay, Greg. Don't worry about it. It's on the poster, but we can, the seniors will pivot. They're still gonna get here at 10.
Yeah.
Or 7:30.
Having not gone through this before, where is it held? What, here, and about how many people do we typically get?
Well, between 80 and 100.
Wow,
Um,
and our job, and some of
and-
us are seniors, so we're serving.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can only pretend you're a senior when
Okay.
it's finished. Then you
Okay.
can eat.
all right.
So Rotarians come, Charlie is gonna be in charge of setup and breakdown. Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I could use somebody who could buy some disposable plastic tablecloths that we could put on the tables. Is there somebody who can take care of arranging for, what do we need, 10 plastic tablecloth covers for these tables, Leslie?
I'll get it.
And Jen, would the two of you get together and work it out? And there's one still there. Two still there. And
We
yeah,
have those. Those are in the
we
closet.
have them, okay. So 10 o'clock, we'll come in, we'll set up all the tables, we'll put the decorations in the ceiling. We'll set the tables with silverware and line up the kitchen. And so anybody who is plan 10 o'clock on that Wednesday morning to help set up. It goes quickly if we get enough hands.
And Chris Stewart is in charge of poinsettias and raffle tickets. So there'll be a poinsettia on every table. Every place will get a raffle ticket, and there will be a chance to read off the raffle tickets, and the people who win will win a poinsettia. Yes.
I got a question. I know that we put up signs a lot of times in some independent homes. Is that a requirement that somebody has to be in a senior in an independent home, or can seniors that live on their own?
Any senior in
Join.
Williston and Richmond is invited.
Okay, all right.
It's a little trickier to get the word out to them, which is why I do Front Porch Forum. But a lot of them know about this and they look forward to it. In fact, last year they told me what they wanted on the menu. And one of the women who tried the broken phone at the very beginning, I think the day that I wrote to her about it being, immediately wrote me back and said, the phone's not working and you don't want angry seniors. So, yeah,
And one more.
Yep.
To be a senior, 65? Is that?
65 and over, yeah.
We
Don't check.
Or
check
right here. Someone taking care of notifying our Rotary widows.
Well, I know Nancy Mill has been invited. I don't know about, Holly Coates. Do you know how to reach her? Okay.
Her
I'll-
daughter Trisha's working for UVM in some capacity. I ran into her recently.
Do you know how to get hold of Tricia?
I think I do.
Okay. see if you can get the word to Polly that it's happening. She may be on the lookout for it
Okay.
anyway, because she's come for years.
Yeah.
But it's a network of, pardon the expression, old people. And they all know, and they all tell each other. So I'm pretty sure once one person knows, it'll spread pretty much like wildfire. Anyway, just so you know that that's happening, we'll pivot with the music. And Charlie will also need people to say afterward to break down.
I thought somebody else was in charge of that.
No, that's you, honey.
Yeah, it takes it by 2 o'clock, usually everything is done, but we need to completely clean up after it's over.
Yeah, so those of you who stay and eat turkey will have enough energy to help clean it. Great. And now, our speaker, Ellie, is going to introduce.
Today, I'm happy to introduce you all to my friend Susan McClure. Susan is the Executive Director of the Vermont Arts Council, where she leads the talented team as they work to build a more creative state. Prior to joining the council, she was the Executive Director of the Lake Champlain Maritime Museum. And before that, the Director of Programs and Audience Development at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. She holds a Master's in Arts.
Slower, Ellie, slower.
Sorry. Give her the most time possible. She holds a master's in arts and education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education and a bachelor's in theater from McGill University. Susan is thrilled to bring her experiences working in arts education and public history at theaters and museums in small towns and big cities to this role leading the state's Arts Council. Welcome. Thanks, Ellie. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for all that you do for our communities. It's really wonderful to hear just everyone volunteering and joining in, and it makes a real difference to the communities we live in. I live right over in Heinsberg, but actually closer to Richmond, so I feel like I benefit from your good work, so thank you. And actually, one of my best friends did a Rotary scholarship at the end of high school, and it changed her life. So there's a wonderful thing. I don't need to sell you all on Rotary. You're already here. So thanks for having me just to talk a bit about the work of the Vermont Arts Council and the work of the impact of the creative economy on our state. I am still calling myself new to the council. I've just been there for about 7 months. And of course, the first few months were not exactly as we expected. Our offices in Montpelier were badly flooded and are still closed. And we pivoted this summer to, speaking of pivoting, to supporting the field during the flooding crisis, helping folks navigate federal applications, opening an emergency grant program for artists, and working with partners to get donations and funding out as quickly as possible. So that's been a little different start, but one that we were really happy to be able to take a meaningful role in. So my own background has been all about how people learn, specifically history, through theater and performance. You might have guessed that is kind of a niche area. So what that's meant for actually having jobs is that I worked as the Director of Programs and Audience Development at the National Museum of American History and as the Executive Director of the Maritime Museum here in Vermont, as Ellie said. And it was this combination, as well as a bunch of other places, but it was this combination of experiences working for the federal government and leading a nonprofit in Vermont through the COVID crisis that really pushed me towards this statewide role. It may sound a little cheesy at this point, we're so far out from the beginning of COVID, but I used to think that my job as an educator and museum professional was about doing amazing exhibits, educating people, researching. But the day that COVID shut down everything in our state, I had a sinking pit in my stomach when I realized that actually my job was to keep 15 people employed in rural Addison County. I realized that the vital economic role that our arts and culture nonprofits play, and then through COVID, I got to see the vital role that federal and state funding helped for our whole field. And I wanted to be able to do more of that for my career and for our state. I am also deeply passionate about federal funding, which is, I know it's ridiculous, but I love talking about it because federal funding is not some mythical money that's out there. It's all of our money because we pay taxes. So we all pay our taxes, goes to the federal government. We elect people to decide where that money is spent. And then that money, I have the very lucky job of helping that funding get out directly to communities where they can do the best work with it. So a bit about the history of the Vermont Arts Council. We were founded in 1967 through state legislation. And every state in the country and every territory has a state arts or territorial arts agency that's funded by the National Endowment for the Arts through the federal budget. And then that funding is matched by state government funds. Vermont, we like to be a little different. We are the only state arts agency that is actually a separate nonprofit. So we operate what's called a quasi-state agency. There's a few of us in the state where sometimes we operate like a state agency and sometimes we don't. We get to do both. So our role across the state is really threefold. The first is to support artists and organizations through grant funding, capacity building, and technical support for the arts and culture field to help support the field, make sure more people can be doing more great work, reaching more people through the arts and culture. We also work to support and enhance arts education around the state, working with schools, teachers, educators, policymakers on the importance of learning in and through the arts for the future of Vermont. And then, of course, on top of all that, the biggest thing that we do, perhaps you've heard about, is that we give out grants through state and federal funding. So as Vermont State Arts Agency, our broad goal is to ensure that everyone in the state has access to the arts and creative experiences. And we do that by investing in artists and the creative process, arts education, and community development through the arts in all 14 counties through direct grants to artists, organizations, educators, and communities. We believe that everyone should feel welcome at an art museum, theater, sculpture garden, or concert. And we especially work to expand access to the arts and cultural activities for all people and make the arts and culture more accessible, inclusive, and welcoming for everyone. So in fiscal year 23, which is behind us now, but last year, we awarded over $8 million to 85 individuals and 201 organizations in every county and 100 towns across the state. In a typical year, we grant around $1.5 million a year, but last year we were wrapping up administering the Creative Futures grants, which was an unprecedented allocation of $9 million of funds to the Vermont Arts Council from the state through federal COVID relief money for grants to cultural sector entities that have sustained economic harm due to the pandemic. So that was a very different turn for us, where we actually, since the beginning of the pandemic, have granted out over $15 million to really support the whole sector. And we're still hearing amazing stories about the impact of that funding. I was just down in Windham County this week, and someone said to me that they run this amazing all volunteer run performance space where they allow up and coming bands to play at their venue. And they said they were one bill away from closing during the pandemic. And they received the check from the Vermont Arts Council, they paid their insurance bill, and they were able to stay open. And that was, thank you, it was really exciting. So in addition to our COVID relief work, we also run several grant programs focused on supporting individual artists to create new work, supporting arts organizations directly, funding in-school artist residencies and early childhood education programs, and much more. And even without COVID funding, we have quadrupled the amount of funding available to artists over the last 5 years, thanks to an expansion of philanthropic partnerships with partners like the Vermont Community Foundation and through individual donations. And that's the trick for us, being the only nonprofit state arts agency in the country, that we can also do our own fundraising to help bring funding, to help take in funding and then get it out to the state as well. I mentioned the other work we do of trying to change the conditions that we're working in as artists and creatives in the state. And we do that through the work of the Vermont Creative Network. The Vermont Creative Network is a statewide collaborative effort to bring together Vermont's creative sector through networking, to quantify its impact through research, and then to advocate its growth through increasing state investments and supports. So networking, you're all in a room together at 7:30 in the morning. You know the value of that. That is incredibly valuable for artists and creatives too. Vermont can be a lonely rural place to make amazing artworks. I feel like the example I always use is the potter on a dead-end road. And I do have to say this actually. I always talk about potters on dead-end roads in Vermont. And then I was biking in the islands this summer, and I was biking along the middle of nowhere, and I saw a little tiny sign for a potter on a dead-end road. It's like, he's real. So it can be lonely work. So what we do is work to bring people together, because I fundamentally believe in the power of just getting people in a room together and seeing what happens when all of those chemistries intermingle. And I keep saying creative sector, and when I say creative sector, we define that as all of the activities and products that really have creativity at their heart and core. So that might be something as clearly defined as the potter who's making art. It might be a place like Shelburne Museum who hires security guards who work there, and they're part of the creative sector. It's creative businesses, for-profit businesses. It's the yarn store that's right in downtown Williston. Do you call this downtown? This part is down. I would call this downtown. Right? The village. Okay, in the village. Thank you. So this year we'll be bringing back our in-person convenings for artists and creative network, creative sector people around the state. We also do a lot of advocacy work. So when the legislature starts in January, we will be there working hard to ensure that the arts are part of the solution to our pressing statewide issues. And this year, we're focused on 3 big items for our legislative work. The first is supporting state investments in designated downtown areas that prioritize the arts and culture. The state has several programs for how they define town development, which many of you may be familiar with. A lot of those have arts and culture built into their rules and regulations, so we'll be working with them to support that. We're also going to be supporting some work around climate change mitigation and arts organizations. We have some really wonderful stories of small state investments that have had a huge impact, especially through the flooding. A great example of that is the Capital City Grange Hall in Berlin. They received a small grant from us through the state to install a new sump pump in their basement of the building, which is by far the least exciting grant funded project you could fund. But it's vital. And they told us that after they installed the sump pump, that they have flooded every single summer that they've been in that building until this year. And even this year, they didn't flood. And that was such a small investment that saved probably, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we'll be working with the state to hopefully increase those programs so that we have rural core organizations, cultural organizations that are core to our towns and villages identity are supported and able to continue through whatever's coming. We'll also be working to build up the state's film and digital media capacity. Vermont's actually one of only 5 states in the entire country that has no supports for filmmakers working in the state. So we're going to be working to develop a very small but impactful program that will be just a database of collecting information about what's available, how to film here, try to make it a little bit easier for filmmakers to work here. And then another big piece of our work is research. We know that to advocate for all this, we need data on the impact of our work. And we all know, and hopefully you've seen them and been part of them, these stories of success of the creative work in the state. Maybe you have gone to see a show and gone out to dinner and had a wonderful evening. You've seen impact on students. We're talking about having a high school band perform at your lunch for seniors, doing that intergenerational work that the bridge building that the arts can do. So we've all seen it. We have great stories of it, but we also need some cold hard numbers on the impact of the arts and culture to our local economies. So I'm going to dive into just a little bit of that today and talk about the state of Vermont's creative economy. So this year we released new data from a survey called the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6. This is a survey that's been done for about 30 years. It's a national economic and social impact study on the nation's nonprofit arts and culture industry. So Vermont worked to collect data in 2022. 120 nonprofit organizations in Vermont collected data. Libraries, music performances, museums, theaters, all sorts of live events, polled their audiences, provided information about ticket sales and attendance in a very rigorous process that was repeated throughout the country. And our biggest takeaways from this survey are some great data on the real impact of the arts and culture on our local economies. And the fact is, arts and culture drives commerce to local businesses. There were 1.4 million attendees to arts and culture events put on by nonprofits in Vermont in 2022. And 75% of those attendees were local and 25% were non-local. And of those non-local audiences, around 80% of them reported that the primary reason they came to visit the area, so if they were from out of state, it was the primary reason they came to Vermont. If they were from, just further away, so the primary reason they went into the town was specifically to attend a performance, event, exhibit, or a facility. So people are making decisions about what they're going to do so that they can participate in the arts and culture. And when people attend a cultural event, as you all know, because hopefully you do this too, you make an outing out of it. You go out for dinner, you pay for parking, hire a babysitter, maybe go for dessert after the show. And what we found through this survey overall in Vermont is that locals are spending about $35 per person I don't know what that says about the cost of Burlington, but yeah, it's just the cost of parking. Around the spending of audiences, but it's actually not just what audiences are spending, it's also our economic power as a sector. So in 2021, the US Bureau of Economic Analysis, which is part of the federal government, they do data collection around the economy. They reported that arts and cultural production in Vermont accounts for $1.1 billion of the state's GDP, and 3% of Vermont's economy, and over 10,000 jobs in Vermont. And when you compare that to other sectors of the economy, that means that the arts and culture is actually the third largest economic sector in the state, behind retail and construction, which is not really how I usually think about the arts and culture. But when you add us all up together, we have real power as a sector, and we're driving Vermont's economy in a way that very few other industries can say that we do. So not only does the arts and culture in Vermont enrich our lives in so many ways by bringing us together, by giving us a chance to learn about ourselves and other people, by entertaining, by educating, but it also has a vital role to play in our state's economy. And the biggest takeaway of all of this data is that we now know that by strengthening Vermont's creative economy, we will strengthen Vermont's overall economy, which is something we are all very much committed to as we're looking towards the future of Vermont. And the great thing about doing it through the arts is that we can strengthen our economy in a way that also strengthens our bonds as communities and working together. So I'll just mention a few ways that other towns are looking at solidifying this as part of their town work. So as many of you know, Vermont towns live and die by our town plans. And there are a few towns across the state that actually have put the arts and culture into their town planning as part of, there's lots of different things to it. It could be about, historic preservation, about supporting cultural spaces, space for artists. Other areas are like in Windham County, they're doing a Windham County Regional Cultural Plan, where they're on top of their town plan. They're making a specific regional plan about how to support the arts and culture in that area. South Burlington is now undertaking a cultural plan for South Burlington. So I don't know if there's any Williston South Burlington competition. Maybe you could do it too. Maybe there's not. They may make that up. I don't know. I live in the woods. We don't. So there's towns around the state that are really seeing the value of the arts and culture, and then they're trying to figure out the best way to put that into practice so that it's solidified as part of local governance. Stowe actually has a town arts committee that's part of local government. It's an appointed committee. So there's lots of ways that it's happening all around the state, and we're excited to work with towns and regions across the country. Well, I would do it across the country. We'll start across the state. Towns and cities across the state to make sure that the arts and culture are part of their planning and part of how they're looking to grow their economies and their communities as well. So I'm some questions.
Andrew, can you hear me? I think we've been bumped out of the meeting. You're muted.
Oh, no, I'm muted.
Yeah, I looked under participants and it only shows you and me and Greg.
Yeah, I think it seemed like they were having some connectivity issues.
Yeah. We have a what do you call it? A breakout session.
Yeah, there you go. What's our prompt?
Yeah, I know. What are we gonna talk about, huh?
How was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. And my 97-year-old father-in-law lives down in New Hampshire, so we go down there every year and have a restaurant Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Which is great. It's great for my father-in-law and me, but my wife doesn't eat meat, so the usual fare at these Thanksgiving restaurant things aren't really geared towards somebody who doesn't eat turkey. So it wasn't great for her, but it's nice to still have him around and still be able to go down and do that.
Yeah, that's a blessing for sure. How about you, Andrew?
Oh, went to my daughter's for a very nice meal. She put on a major spread.
Nice.
Yeah.
I look forward to doing that again sometime. So we have family spread out all over everywhere, so it's not easy to get together.
Yeah, mine are all around me. I'm lucky.
Hmm.
Yeah.
How about you,
I'm
Greg?
gonna mute and stay on the call. I'm gonna mute and do some email here and see if we
Okay.
get pulled back
All
in.
right. Take care.
So we got kicked out, huh?
I guess so. Maybe I'll see if I can chat with somebody and find out what happened. So you are chatting as a guest. Okay. All right. All right. Zoom. I'm just going to say Zoom lost you. I think I'm going to probably just check out.
Oh, pause.
See if I get any kind of response from anybody. We went down to Marion a few weeks ago. No, it was a month or so ago
Yeah,
to visit our friend.
that's
Which,
nice.
it was actually, it was actually quite colorful because it was down there. It was the foliage was in full bloom. It was pretty remarkable. Just driving down as we were approaching Marion on the highway there. But it's nice down there this time of year, actually, nice and quiet. But there were still some people out on the golf course. We walked around the golf course a couple of times. And,
Oh yeah, I've lost my video.
yeah, I went to Let's see if I can.
I can hear you though.
Okay. Yeah, I did a chat, but I did a chat with the group, and I didn't get anything back from it.
Oh yeah.
They're probably closing in on. Well, no, they still have a lot of time. I don't know what happened. I wonder if we go out and then try to come back in on the Zoom, whether or not that'll work. I'm going to try that.
Oh
Yeah, that's a good idea, Dave. I'll try the same.
Yeah. All right. All right, guys. Nice chatting with you.
Yeah.
See if I can leave. Figure out how to leave.
Bottom right-hand corner.
Okay.